My dad read my diary out loud at the dinner table, in front of his new wife, in front of her kids, in front of a man I had never seen before in my life. He read the page where I wrote that I wished my mom was still alive so I would not have to live with strangers. And then he closed the diary, looked at me and said, "Is this really how you feel about your new family?" Everyone at the table was staring at me. I was 14 years old. I had sauce on my sleeve from cooking their dinner. And the woman who gave him that diary was sitting right across from me, smiling. My name is Emily. My father is one of the wealthiest men in our city, and for 11 months I was treated like a ghost in my own home. But the diary is where this story really begins, and it is not what you think. Before everything fell apart, my life was the kind of life people make movies about. We lived in a white house on a hill, 6 bedrooms, a garden with roses that bloomed every spring, and a kitchen that always smelled like my mom's fresh lavender tea. My mom was an artist. She painted portraits of people she loved. There was one of me hanging above the fireplace. I was 3 years old in it, holding a stuffed rabbit with one ear missing. She painted every single stitch on that rabbit. That is the kind of woman she was. She noticed everything. When she got sick, I was 9. I did not really understand what was happening. I just knew that the house started getting quieter. The painting stopped. The tea kettle stopped whistling in the mornings. She passed away on a Thursday. I remember because I had a spelling test that day and I got a perfect score. I came home to show her and my dad was sitting on the kitchen floor. I had never seen my father on the floor before. After that, it was just me and him. For 4 years, it was just us. He would drive me to school even though we had a driver. He would sit with me while I did homework, even though he had 100 emails to answer. On Fridays, we would order way too much food and watch old movies, and he would fall asleep on the couch every single time before the movie even finished. He was not a perfect man, but he was my perfect dad. And then he went to a business conference in Monaco. He was supposed to be gone for 5 days. He came back on day 3, with a woman named Victoria, and her 2 sons, and an engagement ring that was already on her finger. Victoria was beautiful. I will give her that. She had this way of walking into a room that made it feel like she was doing the room a favor by being there. She spoke in a soft voice. She smiled at me a lot in the beginning, and she always touched my dad's arm when she talked to him. Always. Her sons were Brandon and Oliver. Brandon was 17. Oliver was 12. They showed up with 3 suitcases, each in attitudes that made it clear they had already been told this house was theirs now. Brandon took one look at the painting of me above the fireplace and said to his mother, "Are we keeping that?" Victoria laughed and said, "We will redecorate soon enough." They got married 6 weeks later. 6 weeks. My dad asked me if I was okay with it exactly once. I said I needed more time. He said he understood. The wedding happened anyway, and then things started changing. Small things first. My mom's tea set disappeared from the kitchen. It was replaced by a new set that Victoria brought from her old apartment. Then the rose garden got ripped out because Brandon said the pollen gave him allergies. Then my mom's painting came down. My dad told me he put it in storage so it would be safe, but I walked past the garage and I saw it leaning against the wall behind a stack of old tires. Behind tires. That was the night I started writing in my diary. I wrote one line on the first page. "I think they are trying to erase her." Here is what life looked like after month 3. Victoria told my dad that Brandon needed more space for his gaming setup, and my dad agreed without even telling me first. Brandon had my old bedroom. The big one with the window that faced the garden. I came home from school and my things were in boxes in the hallway. Oliver got the study converted into his own private room because he said he could not share with his brother. I got the storage room on the ground floor. They put a bed in it and called it my new bedroom. It still smelled like cleaning products. Our housekeeper, Mrs. Whitfield, who had been with us since before I was born, was let go because Victoria said she was too old and too slow. Mrs. Whitfield cried when she left. She held my face in her hands and said, "You call me if you need anything, anything." I did not call her. I did not want to be a burden on anyone. After Mrs. Whitfield left, Victoria made it very clear that the cooking and cleaning needed to happen. And since Brandon had football practice and Oliver was too young and Victoria had her social commitments, it fell on me. I cooked breakfast for 5 people every morning before school. I cleaned the kitchen after dinner every night. I did everyone's laundry on weekends, all of it. Brandon once left a pile of muddy football boots on the kitchen counter. Muddy boots, where I prepare food. When I told him to move them, he looked at me like I was the maid and said, "Relax, just wipe it down." Oliver was quieter but worse in a different way. He would break things and blame me. A vase, a laptop charger, a glass shelf in the bathroom. Every single time Victoria believed him. And my dad. My dad was traveling, always traveling. His business had expanded, and he was gone 3 weeks out of every 4. When he was home, Victoria was always there, always in the room, always controlling what he saw and what he heard. I tried telling him once, on the phone, late at night. I said, "Dad, things are hard here," he said. "I know change is hard, sweetheart. Victoria tells me you are adjusting. Just give it time. Victoria tells me you are adjusting." I wrote that line in my diary too. I underlined it 3 times. 11 months in, my dad came home for a big dinner. He brought a business partner, an older man named Mr. Crawford. Very important, very wealthy. The kind of man my dad wanted to impress. Victoria dressed up the house. She made me cook a 3-course meal for 7 people. I spent 4 hours in the kitchen. When everyone sat down to eat, I sat at the end of the table, the far end, like I always did now. And then Victoria pulled out my diary, my actual diary, the one I hid under my mattress. She said, "I found this while cleaning Emily's room. I think you should read it." My father opened it. He read the first page out loud. The page where I wrote that I wished my mom was still alive so I would not have to live with strangers who do not love me. The table went completely silent. My father's face went hard. He looked at me. His voice was cold. He said, "Is this really how you feel about your new family?" I could not breathe. Victoria's eyes were wet. She was shaking her head slowly like I had betrayed her. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. And then Mr. Crawford spoke. He said, "May I see that diary?" My father hesitated but handed it over because this was a man he could not say no to. Mr. Crawford flipped through the pages slowly. He read silently for what felt like 2 full minutes. Then he closed the diary and placed it on the table. He looked at my father and said, "This child has been writing to her dead mother every night asking for help. She has been cooking and cleaning for your entire household while being moved into a storage room, and you're asking her if this is how she feels." The room stopped. Victoria's fake tears dried up instantly. Mr. Crawford said, "I think the question is not how she feels. The question is, how did you let this happen?" And then he turned to me, and he said something I will never forget. He said, "You write beautifully, Emily. Your mother would be very proud." I started crying. Not the quiet kind, the kind where your whole body shakes and you cannot stop even if you want to. My father stared at that diary for a long time. Then he picked it up, held it to his chest, and left the room without saying a word. I could hear him crying through the door. That was the first time I heard my father cry since the day my mom died. What happened next is the part nobody expected. See, Victoria thought she was exposing me. She thought my dad would read those pages and punish me for being ungrateful. What she did not know is that the diary had more than just my feelings in it. I am a very detailed writer. I wrote dates, I wrote times, I wrote exactly what was said and who said it. I wrote down the day the painting was put behind tires. I wrote down every single meal I cooked and the exact hours I worked. I wrote down what Brandon said about the boots. I wrote down what Victoria said every time my dad was not home. My diary was not just a diary, it was evidence, and Mr. Crawford, who turned out to be a retired family court judge, asked my father's permission to read the whole thing. My dad said yes. 2 days later, Mrs. Whitfield was back in our house. 1 week later, my painting was back above the fireplace. 2 weeks later, I was back in my old room. Victoria and my dad had conversations that lasted hours behind closed doors. I do not know everything that was said, but I know this: Victoria's name was removed from the house deed, a post-nuptial agreement was signed, and a family counselor started coming to the house every Thursday. Brandon apologized to me. I could tell he did not mean it, but he said the words, and honestly that was enough for now. Oliver surprised me though. He knocked on my door one night and said, "I am sorry I broke the vase and blamed you. I was scared of my mom." He was 12. I hugged him, because 12-year-olds should not have to be scared of their own mothers. I am not going to sit here and tell you everything is perfect now. It is not. Some days the house still feels like a place where 2 families were forced to share a roof and everyone is trying their best, but their best is not always enough. Victoria is still here. She is quieter now. She does not control things the way she used to. Sometimes I catch her looking at the painting of me above the fireplace and I wonder what she is thinking. My dad and I have dinner together every Friday now. Just the 2 of us. He does not fall asleep during movies anymore because I think he is scared to miss anything else. He told me recently that reading my diary was the worst and the best thing that ever happened to him. The worst because of how much it hurt. The best because it woke him up. I still write in my diary, every night. But the entries are different now. Last Friday I wrote, "Dad made pancakes today. They were terrible. He used salt instead of sugar and we both pretended they were fine until we could not keep pretending, and we laughed so hard the milk came out of his nose." That is a real entry. That happened. And underneath it I wrote one more line. "Mom, I think we are going to be okay."
I had my most private words read out loud at a dinner table to humiliate me, and somehow that diary, the one thing they used against me, became the one thing that saved me. Never underestimate a girl who writes everything down. If this story hit you, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button. I'm serious. Smash it. Emily did not survive 11 months of that for you to scroll past, and subscribe, because you need to hear what happened when Victoria's mother showed up at the house and found out everything her daughter did. That story is even crazier than this one. Drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have handed over that diary, or would you have burned it? I already know what I would do. See you in the next one.